Okay. Well, welcome everyone to another monthly Collaberex workshop where I'm really thrilled to have Laura Rada here presenting to us on kind of developing your money mission statement. She presents a completely different point of view from any other financial advisor I've ever spoken to, and it's so refreshing. So Laura, she is a certified financial planner and owner of True Abundance Advisors, a heart-centered values-based financial planning firm based in New York. She had a successful career managing money for institutional investors, including Citicorp and Para Advisors. Laura discovered mindfulness practices and was drawn to guide professionals facing a big life change to achieve both financial security and life satisfaction. Since making her shift, she has been featured on CNBC, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Westchester Senior Voice, is on the advisory council of Impact 100, Westchester, a women's group giving organization, and volunteers with My Money Workshop, teaching financial literacy to underserved communities. Laura, thank you for being here. This is great.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jonathan. And I feel like I should add to my bio that I graduated from Leadership Westchester in 2016, because that's how I met you when I was a guest alum at your event. So thank you, everyone, for coming to attend this workshop. And like I said about a minute ago, this is going to be, I hope, relatively interactive. And you're each going to be developing your own personal money mission statement. So be ready to take some notes for yourself. And I keep seeing people to admit.
I'll take care of the admitting. I'm your co-host. So.
Thank you so much, co-host.
Okay.
So I'd like to start with a minute of centering. We're all coming here from other phone calls, other meetings. I walked my dog about 20 minutes ago. So if you could just uncross your legs and place your palms down on your thighs. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. If not, you can keep your eyes open and feel yourself supported by your seat, your feet supported by the ground beneath you. And take a deep breath and be counting to 4 as you inhale and counting to 4 as you exhale. And invite yourself to be fully present, whatever that means for you at this workshop. You can open your eyes, and now Jonathan's going to put in the chat, but I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, when you hear the word money, what's the first 3 words that pop into your head? So don't overthink this, and please add it to the chat so I get a sense of where everyone is in their relationship to money. I see. You never know whether it's Eileen or Ted. That's the fun Collaberex pop quiz. Success, financial freedom from Carolyn. Happy to have Thomas Tool, leverage, freedom. Eileen, freedom, joy, security. I love Patty, the exploration, and if everyone can mute themselves.
This is
the national video.
Happy, freedom, joy, security, freedom. Thank you, Eileen. Ted said peace of mind. Choice. Jonathan, can you mute?
I am, yeah.
Okay, great.
I'm going down the list.
Thank you. Lack, stress, never enough, Catherine. Inheritance, legacy, and inequality. And as Claire said, it's complex. Yes. Worry, prosperity, abundance. So thank you for sharing that and for starting to think to yourselves what money means. I did create some slides. I hope they don't get in the way. It's harder for me to see you, but I will just start with this second question, which is related to what you've all just put into the chat. Because as you think about what your mission is this year with your personal finances, I think it's important to understand what's shaping your views of money. And it's often crazy to me that the messages we've gotten when we were 5 years old, maybe when we were 3 years old, when we were 10 years old, how our parents talked about money, how our parents acted around money has a much greater impact on our point of view than actually the number of zeros in our bank accounts. I mean, and I don't know, can you see this when I'm sharing my screen? Is this coming up?
Yeah, we see the slide.
Oh, you
It's not
see the slide. I'm sorry,
Yes.
because on my screen, it's blocked by everyone I'm inviting. I don't know. So I'm going to stop that share for a moment. This is still coming up, so I have to stop that. And this is still coming up. Okay. So take a couple of moments just to think about the messages you received about money growing up and how that's impacting the 3 words that you put into the chat. And you can use the reactions to raise your hand if anyone feels comfortable sharing with the group of what's coming up for them as they think about money messages.
I mean, I'll bring something up. I know me, I'm kind of a second generation in this country. And so my parents really were first generation, and their worries about money were belonging, being successful in the US, doing better than their parents, and creating a life for their kids. So a lot of those messages, I'm sure, were passed along to me and my siblings. Yeah.
So what were your 3 words, Jonathan, that came up?
Expenses, anxious, and goals. So
Okay, thank you.
those are the first 3 words. Maybe the second 3 would be more whatever, different. I see Lisa.
Hi, good to see you, Jonathan. Nice to see
Nice to see
everybody.
you.
I only put 2 words in. I'm sure there were more words, but it was interesting, Laura, when you started talking, because I didn't have any of that growing up. Like, there was no concerns or issues. We were upper middle class. My dad had a great job. We were able to do all the things that we wanted to do. But to me, anxiety, stress, still comes up around money. And as I think back on it, perhaps it's my disconnect with numbers that leads me to have that feeling about money. Like, as an adult, I've realized dyscalculia is probably in my chemical makeup. But money, like, my brother's a financial advisor. I married someone that used to be a CPA. But for me, and also when I was in sales, when I did sales, it was like, in order to get your bonus, in order to get this, you have to do this. And so the connection to an outcome, I think, also might be something that stresses me out. So nothing to do with my upbringing, more about my young adulthood.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing, Lisa. I just want to share, I've noticed in my own marriage, my husband grew up, his father was a child of the Depression, and though he was an academic, once he had children, he became an insurance salesman. So the message my husband grew up with is the most important thing is to provide for your family. I grew up, my parents were younger, sort of the maybe children of the 60s, the 50s, 60s. And the message I got is it's most important thing is to be happy. My father, frankly, went from profession to profession. I don't think he ever found happiness, but it definitely had an impact on how we both deal with money, that I think it's important. And I've made a life transition, right, to do something I enjoy. And that was not a message my husband received. So thanks both of you for sharing. I'm now going to move on to the first step of creating our money mission for 2024, which is defining our values. You know, starting with why, it's an overused term of quite a good book. Because if you don't know why you want to achieve a certain goal, it's very hard ultimately to motivate ourselves to achieve it. I'm actually interested with a show of hands. How many of you have made goals for 2024 independent of money goals? I see Tina's raising her hand, Claire, Catherine, Sabra. So a lot of you have. And I'm sure you're all aware of the statistics that by February, I think some large percentage of people who've made New Year's resolutions have fallen off the wagon. And so when I start to work with new clients, I do a money exercise. I'll be happy afterwards to share with you the link to that money exercise. But since we're not online, I put some of the, sorry, this keeps moving. And maybe it'll be easier to see it if I make it a slide. Yeah. And sorry. Tried to list values that I have on these values cards that I used to use pre-pandemic when I met with most people live, but now everything has to be accessed online. So this is where your pen and your paper is going to come in handy, and I'll give you a couple of minutes, and please don't feel like your values are limited to the ones I've listed on this slide. And I'd suggest finding, again, maybe 3 to 5 core values that you think influence the decisions you make about your life. Now, when I work with clients, we then look at credit card statements and other ways of tracking spending to see how we can actually, or if there is actually a correlation between the values they name and how they're actually spending their money. And of course, their other scarce resource, time, and even their third scarce resource, energy. And not surprisingly, the correlations can often be pretty weak. Like if you say, well, family is my main value, but you work late evenings and during the weekends. The important thing to start with is working on what your top 3 to 5 values as you understand them are. You another minute or so. And when you come up with them, please write them down because they're going to be part of your money mission. Your money mission. Say that 10 times fast. I don't know, Jonathan, do you think it's helpful to leave this slide up, or people can come up with values on their own?
No, I think they have the idea. You could take the slide down. It's good to see everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. And I'm going to share this quote that I love in the next slide. It's by Carol Hildebrand, saying that committed decisions show up in two places: your calendar, as I said, your scarce time, and your bank account. No matter what you say you value, or even think your priorities are, you have only to look at last year's calendar and bank account to see the decisions you have made about what you truly value. See how you have reserved your time. Look at your expenditures, and those are the trails to the decisions you have made. So your spending, both in your calendar and in your bank account, don't lie. And I would suggest, we certainly didn't have time to do it today in this workshop, that maybe look at some of your credit card statements and see how you are actually spending your money. You may be surprised by what you see, especially if you tend to be avoidant when it comes to tracking your spending. And again, there's never going to be 100% correlation between what you value and how you spend your money, but it's an interesting and often eye-opening exercise, so I highly recommend it. So is everyone ready with their values? You can shake your head now that I can see everyone. Has everybody defined their top 3 to 5 values? Don't see anyone shaking their head yet. Thank you, Mark and Claire. And so after defining our values, the next step is to define our goals. And so I have some suggestions for your goals for this year. And these are, again, we're talking about money goals. So I'm starting to work with a couple. I see that they have credit card debt. They've moved most of the balances to a 0% card, but still, I know their goal is to get out of debt. You know, you may also have a goal to renovate your home or purchase a home or downsize, which is something I did a couple of years ago. And another quote that I love, this is from Daniel Pink, the book Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. And so as you're developing a mission statement for this year, keep in mind not just goals that I just wrote down, but are these the right goals? Are these goals that are going to give you life satisfaction, or are these goals that you've culturally been led to believe are correct goals? And when I say that, you know, for example, additional education, if that was something you chose, is that something you truly want? Or is that something you feel like society has told you that you should want? You should have an MBA, you should have a master's. So I think about my goals for the year is really, I often set up that I want to have more time for personal pursuits and spending less time on purely professional. I have yet to achieve that, but it is what I feel like I write year after year of how I want to spend my time. And I'm going to share questions that, let's see, that I ask that might help you broaden your aperture, your lens, as you think about how you want to invest your time and energy as you create these goals. So, first question, what activities, paid or unpaid, currently make you feel good? So what activities currently give your life a sense of meaning and purpose? Because sometimes as we're setting goals, it's purely, again, other people's goals. And so if you think about, well, what gives you intrinsic satisfaction? And is that part of your mission for this year? And so the second question ties into the first, thinking back over your lifetime, what accomplishments have given you the greatest intrinsic rewards and why? We're often, when we're setting these mission statements up, just focused on extrinsic rewards, which may or may not be what really gives you satisfaction. And then the dreaming part. What are some of the things you would like to accomplish or experience in the future? Let's say this year, since we're writing a mission statement for this year. And this is where I encourage you to dream. When I was researching my next career, I had been an institutional investor on Wall Street and left. It's a decade ago, the end of November 2013. I had read a book, 90 Days to a New Life Direction. And one of the questions was, dream of 3 careers and research them. And they don't have to be rational. Like if you want to be a clown, because you have a good sense of humor, find 3 people who work as clowns and interview them. And that permission to dream, to not just purely do a rational list of what I wanted to achieve, was so liberating. And I did follow up on 2 of the 3 dreams. One of them was rabbi, and decided I didn't want to go back to school and become a rabbi. But I did, one of them was yoga teacher, and I did do a yoga teacher training. So I don't know if any of you have that kind of dream for 2024. Or become a financial advisor for people going through a life transition as I did. And that dream has come true. I guess I also need to have 2024 dreams. So as we're moving forward, I hope you've chosen 3 to 5 values that are your why. And now, perhaps 3 goals, perhaps 1 goal, perhaps 4 goals. I'm going to ask Jonathan, as you know, in a bit, to actually create breakout rooms, because I think it's easier to share in a smaller group than to share in a larger. And I am going to share one more quote. I see these quotes, they motivate me, so I hope they motivate you. When you have a dream, and a plan working together in the construction of a life chapter, you have a mission, a circumscribed purpose that defines your use of time and space for the duration of this particular life chapter. People with a mission know where they want to go. And this is a quote from Frederick Hudson, Mastering the Art of Self-Renewal. And it may be a big ask to define your goals as a mission, but I often find a correlation between money and losing weight. You know, it's one thing to say, I want to lose weight in 2024, and I'm not even going to talk yet about specific goals and how you're going to track it. We'll get to that. But why do you want to lose weight? Is there a specific reason? Do you want to be able to, you know, keep up with your grandchildren and have energy when they come visit, or your children? Do you, I personally think it needs to be a bigger why than fitting into a smaller pair of pants. The question is beyond that. Okay, smaller pair of pants. Why? What is it? And ask yourself that question. What value is behind the goal that you are choosing? Because that gives you a little bit more assurance that the goal will actually get done. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer what's coming up for them, or any questions they have so far about what's coming up.
You have any questions? Just, you could use the reaction button, raise your hand,
Or put it
or
in
if you
the,
have or put it in the chat if you have a comment.
Can I drop something in?
sure.
Thank you for that. It's interesting that both your quotes referenced use of time. The first one was to see where you have reserved your time, and the second one, I know it was there. That's one of my primary drivers for the year, is to not trade time for money if it's not an equal or greater exchange, because there's a lot of traps of whether it's a fixed income mindset, which is like the scarcity stuff, or not being risky enough, which is like also scarcity versus abundance. But the idea of definitely not making a trade if it's not worth it, even if it's like a pinch month and it makes sense on the surface. I don't want to make surface level choices, especially not for a whole year. It's a really long time where a lot of stuff can be missed or sacrificed for no reason. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. And it's so true. I mean, really, that is the basic trade-off that we're always making between time and money. And I remember reading this book and liked it so much that I realized I have 2 or 3 copies at home. It's quite old. It's called Your Money or Your Life. And it has you calculate how much an hour of your time is worth, based upon how much you earn, et cetera. And so when you go to buy something, perhaps this is where my mind is at, for better or worse, the $200 cashmere sweater that's on sale. Well, how many hours of your life is it going to take to earn that sweater? And is that a worthwhile trade-off? And it's an interesting way to think about the trade-offs that we make. And certainly, as I've gotten older, I'm more and more willing to make the trade-offs for family time, rent that Airbnb, take family away. But, really, how many sweaters do I need, especially when I'm mostly on a Zoom screen? Nobody knows if I'm wearing the Zoom, wearing the new sweater. So it's an important trade-off. And again, the third trade-off that I think is quite linked to time, which is energy. Where are you spending your energy? And for better or for worse, most of us, I always think about that Steve Covey, jar where you've got the big rocks you want to get done, but so many of us, I'm certainly speaking for myself, just get all the pebbles done, return that email, run that errand, and the big rocks just don't get my energy. I finally free myself up at 7 p.m. at night and there's no energy left. And so trying to be more thoughtful about what I'm putting in my calendar and how I'm spending my time. So the next part of our exercise, assuming that you've named some goals that you want to achieve, and now back to actionable and specific, right? How are you going to achieve that? Oh, I see that Ellen wrote that she has to leave. How are you actually going to implement your time, we just talked about, in order to achieve these goals? So I have a weekly money date. I have to say, I had an intention to make it with my partner. As I described earlier, my partner is a child of Depression era parents. I think just the word money makes him anxious. So we haven't had that many money dates other than me telling him, you know, everything's okay. This is where we are. But I do have a weekly money date with myself. Tends to be on Sunday, and I will I'll share a resource also for Jonathan that he could share with you. If you're comfortable with either Google Docs or Excel, there is an app called Tillerhq, and you connect it to your bank accounts and your credit cards, and it will show you, you give it some information to categorize. And I look every Sunday and see, how did I spend my money over the last 7 days? And how did I spend my money relative to how I intended to spend my money? So I know my fixed costs, you know, my mortgage, my electric, my direct TV, whatever my fixed monthly bills are. And then what did I spend on fun? And was it within my expectations? So that's one thing to do, to actually, and it's hard when you originally start. It's not always comfortable to look at how you're spending your money. And as I say to clients, it's just, again, it's a mindfulness practice. You don't have to decide I'm spending too much, but you're not going to have any decision-making capability if you don't actually know the reality. Often our stories are so much more frightening than our reality. And so to start actually looking at what's taking place rather than imagining what's taking place is the first step. Another step, which I'm sure you've heard before, is pay yourself first. And that's, for example, I get paid quarterly at you know, the money that I manage for my clients. Quarterly, I get a deposit into my bank account, and I know what my profit margins are, and I automatically transfer the profits, if you will, into another bank account, and then I distribute it to taxes and savings and profits. So before, I don't just leave the money sitting in the checking account to be spent. And if you're a W-2 employee where you have a paycheck, you can arrange for a portion of each paycheck to go into a savings account and not directly into a checking account. And that's very, very useful, so that you don't see the money sitting in an account and imagine that you have more resources and end up not saving. In other words, saving shouldn't come after everything else unless you're living hand to mouth, which there are periods of time where that happens. But when you have the ability to even put $5 away, just a nominal amount, it's the same thing we say about meditating. Take a minute if you can't take 5, and take 5 if you can't take 10. So pay yourself first from your earnings, no matter how small that amount is, to start the habit of saving. And then the 7-day rule, I can't say that I do the 7-day rule entirely myself. It's the first time I heard 7 days. I think I do 24 hours. But the idea being, if you do see some fun purchase, or, I mean, this is, I know there's some entrepreneurs in this group, some shiny new a group you can belong to, not group, but, another training program or a coaching program, or they're going to do, before you sign on, give yourself a buffer period. Maybe it's not 7 days. Maybe you put the Amazon purchase in your cart and you wait 24 hours. Just to see if that purchase is still calling to you after you've given yourself some time to think about it, because we're often just driven by like the shiny new object syndrome. I want that. And if you give yourself some time, you might realize in the next day, I already have, I'm obviously in a sweater mode. I already have 3 black sweaters. I don't need another one. And then I also do play that game of, if it's not there, if somehow it went, it wasn't meant to be, and I don't need it. So creating both a buffer in your income so that you're setting aside, however nominal an amount it is, a certain amount to your savings, and a buffer period again in time. When you see a purchase, that don't make it immediately, create some time, sleep on it overnight, and then go back and see if it's still calling to you. Does anyone else have any suggestions of things they might set up as we enter 2024 to move towards their goals?
Laura, I'll give you an example of friends of ours that have that. It's not a 7-day rule; it's a 3-month rule, and
Whoa.
it has to do with getting a new dog. So they've always had dogs, and when their dog's old now, and they say, when the dog dies, we're going to give ourselves a 3-month buffer, because or else they would get a puppy within a week. So they want to let it settle and say, oh, we get to go on vacation without trying to make arrangements for the dog. So they've set the rule. Whether they follow it or not, I'm not sure, but they've
Thank
talked
you.
about it.
That's certainly, a meaningful one. And as a new dog owner, it's always, we'll make plans for the weekend and then go, oh, the dog.
And it's a huge expense. It's the having a dog that's going to live, say 12 to 15 years, and it's a financial decision.
And Tina, thanks for sharing in the chat that you ask yourself if it's a need or a want. And I would also say that often, or how shall I say it? Wants are important, right? You don't, to use the diet analogy, if you say to yourself, I can never have a snack, I can never have dessert, I can never have chocolate. Well, I don't know about you, but that'll end up with me having an entire bag of Oreos when I have one, and then suddenly. So I think it is important to distinguish between needs and wants, and also to think about your wants and when it's important to let yourself have one. Again, more and more, I think we're all finding that experiences are wants that last. Both, if I think about a family vacation, for example, which is a want more than a need, and it starts when I'm planning the vacation and I benefit from it during the vacation, and then I'm thinking about it after the vacation. So there are wants that really can stay with us and really are additive to the experience of our lives. And it's important to understand which is which.
Yes, thank you. Ken, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, in terms of your invitation to what else, in terms of thinking about goals, I think there's a big distinction between promises and goals. And I'm very fortunate to have several. And one of my colleagues and I literally spent an hour this morning sharing the promises that we're making over the next several weeks. And I think that when we're left, when we're inclined to be isolating, we're separating and thinking we're by ourselves in the mix, whether it's money or life, I think we're missing out on the possibility of partnership, colleagueship, teamwork, And so I'm sharing that what really works for me. And I have a very trusted colleague who has a similar purpose and mission in life, is to set promises or goals and share them with one another.
And Ken, are you referring to accountability? Or
Uh,
what other benefit of sharing do you experience?
I experience when I have my doubts or limitations, or my thinking is informed by fear, I trust my colleague to ask me questions so that I can set goals and then make promises beyond my considerations or my limited thinking. So I'm increasingly, to your question, I interchange accountability and responsibility. I can experience responsibility for creating something greater because my colleague has helped me to work through what might be interfering and limiting. So I think I'm smart, and then I pick a wonderful person, have great colleagues who can know me for who I am when I sometimes forget, and mostly all I can see through is lots of fears and limitations.
Thanks for sharing that, Ken, and you clearly have good friends.
Thank you. Thomas?
Yes, so I find that there are two things that really helps me when it comes to goal setting. The first thing is, as everyone had just mentioned, having an accountability partner or team. So I meet with one of my best friends every Monday, and we discuss our money goal, our business goal, and etc. And I also leverage vision boards because I'm very visual. I like to see things. So I leverage vision board, and I put myself in achieving that goal. I put myself in the feeling state, because you have to, in order for you to want something, you have to believe it. And part of believing it, you have to engulf yourself in that state. And those two things has really helped me out over the years.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. And Jeff? Unmute yourself, Jeff.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I've always been a big fan of mentors throughout my whole life. I've had mentors as partners, and what Ken said is so true for me, is to find someone to experiment with in terms of one's conception of what reality can be, and then learn from someone that's done that before, and take away experiences that I haven't had through a relationship, without any judgment or comparison, in relationship to putting a value on that relationship. But in our Western culture, we measure everything by money, no matter whatever it is. And Laura mentioned earlier the value of what I call saving. And over the years, I've had many businesses. I'm at a point right now where I'm approaching a sale of another business and retirement. So, and money really isn't the issue for me at this point now. It's more the time sense. I'll tell you what speeds that all up very quickly in life is health. Health intercedes, and your whole value structure has to change, whether it's someone you love or a friend or someone that you lose, or your own health. And suddenly your eyes are wide open to, what am I going to do with this time I've got left? And it's not about the money at all. I have enough money now to live comfortably for possibly another lifetime, although I'm not sure I want to do that. But I've saved my whole life incrementally, and having 401k plans also for employees. I've saved for them too.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
Talking about time. We have 10 minutes left.
We have 10 minutes left. We want to get our mission statement, but I think again, thank you for sharing that, Jeff,
Thank
that
you.
we're aware we do not have unlimited time. So be thoughtful about how we spend it and how we trade it off for money. I'm going to share now this template for creating your money mission statement. So my money mission, this is, your words, is to align my financial choices with my core values of, and that's where you'd write down the 3 to 5 values you've chosen. And then you will achieve this by, and we named several ways, creating a vision board, as Thomas noted, having an accountability session once a week, once a month with a good friend, instituting some of the things I mentioned, putting something in your Amazon cart for 24 hours before purchasing, paying yourself first out of your income. And then in order to reach your goals of. And I don't know, Jonathan, do we have time for quick breakouts, or I could ask people to share here? I don't know if people are more
I
comfortable.
think ask people to share because, we do
don't
a
have a lot of
breakout,
time.
we have, also, if people have questions, we want to leave a little time at the end for questions, but
Okay.
Laura said that she can stay a few minutes after in case we don't get to everyone's question, so. But I think it would be great for people to, share. Is there anyone that wants to share their? Well, Laura, you take it over. Your money mission statement?
I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I didn't create my own money mission statement. But I think, as I think about it, just as I've shared with this group, I guess I just came away from skiing with I have 3 kids, and they're all in relationships. And so with most of them this past weekend and going away with that. So at this point in my life, it's very important for me to make sure that I have the resources to spend on experiences with my family. I'm lucky enough, at least they seem to like to spend time with us, my adult children. So, and as I said, one of the things I do when I get paid quarterly is I take what I don't need for expenses over the next quarter, and I distribute it both to a savings account as well as to specific buckets within that savings account, since I'm self-employed, the tax bucket, etc. And yeah, and my values I have up on my wall here, which are spirituality, family, meaningful work, play, and health.
Is there
And
anyone else that wants to share also? No one?
it's a big group to share with.
I mean, I'm happy to share, but I would love to hear from someone else. So, I would say, my values I listed as, love, relationships, trust, humor, and community. And so my money mission statement is to align my, my financial choices with those values, and I'll achieve them by, what do I have? I have, my goals are, I stole one from you, Laura, more personal, less professional. I have specific goals regarding Collaberex in terms of, increasing membership by a particular amount. And I want to get back to spending say 20% of my time doing the creative things that I used to do when I was much younger, that I've kind of put to the side. And I want to spend more time. I love tennis, so improving my game and play. I love the whole social aspect and health aspect of it. So the action steps are really to do more calendar buffers, set time aside. I'm spending more intentional money, percentage of my budget on marketing initiatives
Yeah, I've
and
noticed.
trying new things. I'm want to schedule that creative time. If I want to do 20%, then do it. And then I mean, just specifically, like taking 2 tennis clinics a month and paying myself regularly also,
Yeah.
making sure that that's habitual.
I mean, certainly I'm going to share two things I use to be accountable for my time. I don't do it all the time. I didn't do it this week, but I use something called FocusMate. So for $5 a month, I set up online one-on-one. So it's an accountability that I have to schedule some tasks to get done during that period of time. And there's going to be someone else on the other side of the camera, though we're not looking at each other because we've got our screens up doing work. But so I schedule focus meetings. I try to do 6 hours a week. So I know I'll have focused time. And then I use something called Reclaim, which will put, I'll say I need 4 hours for this project. I need to get it done by X. And these are the periods, and it will put it in my calendar. Because sometimes I'm just resistant to finding the time in my calendar. And if the times it puts don't make sense, I can just drag them to different spaces. But so I will use Reclaim to schedule my project time. And then I use FocusMate to make sure I'm going to actually be focused during that time period. So sometimes I'm better at doing it than other times. I would say since the new year, I haven't been so great.
Yeah. Well, Patty Casaza, since you picked on me this morning, I'm going to return the favor. And is there anything that you would like to share regarding your financial mission statement, your goals, your values, your action steps?
I'm just in a really good place, and I appreciate all of this, Laura, because it is thought provoking, and I have much more than 3 to 5 things over my values, but I had put exploration, initially. And I'm semi-retired. And for those of you who I don't know, I work with Jonathan. I facilitate a couple groups, and I also am helping him a little bit on the side, if you will. And so I feel like I'm in a good swing with what I love to do and how my life is and what my finances are. And I have come to, at this point in my life, like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. If I want to buy it, I'm going to buy it, unless it's an absurd thing. And I totally agree with you about the waiting. We saw these 2 leather chairs. It was so funny. I'm like, I don't want to hear what you're saying about this right now. We saw these 2 leather chairs. They're just gorgeous. But I mean, they're like, are we really going to spend that on these chairs? So we haven't made a commitment, and I'm like, oh, this is buyer's remorse. I don't want to have buyer's remorse. So, it really is that question of, it's not even so much, do we need them? Do we really want them? Is this what we want, type of a thing? So hopefully I'm answering the question here. I guess, my focus forward is things that are really important to me are the relationships, the family, the friends, the Collaberex work that I'm doing, and creativity and exploration.
Thank you so much. Brady.
How's it going today, guys?
Great.
So, yeah, I would just kind of input that my wife and I, over the last couple of years, we own a business together that we've been kind of growing from grassroots, ground up, and we've had a lot of fun, but tons of stress the last few years. And I think one thing that we've always struggled with is it's easy to set the goals, but then to have the weekly meetings. And one thing that we implemented in our company the last year, which has made a difference, was a one-to-one. So with key people in my organization, we have a weekly one-to-one that's an established time. And but my wife and I have been trying to get that on our schedule for our personal stuff as well. And I think that we've always just kind of struggled with setting the goals, but then being able to break down the goal. So I appreciate the time today. I think this was helpful. But I was wondering if you were going to provide the slides that you had today that we could actually review afterwards as well together in our personal one-to-one.
Yes, I will send the slides to Jonathan, and some of the things I mentioned, some links I'll also share for Tiller HQ and for an online values exercise. And so be happy to.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
just shared your email, so that's Laura's contact.
Perfect.
Please have everyone have a conversation with Laura. It'll be the best part of your day.
And I also have a newsletter where I share, it goes out every Thursday at 4 p.m. and I share some mindfulness teaching together with some financial information. So I
Perfect.
like to merge the two.
Right, so it's 1 minute after. If anyone has any other questions or wants to share and wants to stay for a few minutes, Laura and I will hang out. Anyway, Laura, thank you so much for another wonderful workshop. It exceeded expectations. I thought it was wonderful. Great job. And
Thank you
I
all for
so appreciate it.
interacting.
Right. And for everyone here that, that are Collaberex members, we so appreciate you being part of our community. And if you haven't joined our community yet, we invite everyone to be our guest. We give everyone a free 30-day membership, and happy to have everyone sample our groups and see more of the same engaging content that creates relationships. Thank you so much. Okay, Laura, I'm going to hang out for a few minutes. We'll see if
Okay.
anyone wants to hang with us or not. Okay.
I'm gonna hang with you guys for a few minutes if that's okay.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, great. It'd be great. Okay. Gonna stop the recording.
It's such a nice group, Collaberex, I have to say.